They were not always enemies. In fact, there was a time when Iranian generals flew to Tel Aviv, when Israeli experts lived and worked in Tehran, when the two nations shared intelligence, shared oil, and quietly called each other partners. Today, they are firing missiles at each other. This is not ancient hatred. This is a modern story, and it is one of the most dramatic reversals in the history of the Middle East. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to the beginning. When Israel was founded, it was surrounded by hostile Arab nations that refused to accept its existence. To survive, Israel needed allies, and it needed them fast. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion came up with a strategy. Instead of trying to win over its Arab neighbors, he would leap over them entirely. Israel would build alliances with the non-Arab nations on the edges of the Middle East. Nations like Turkey, Ethiopia, and Iran. At the time, Iran was ruled by the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He was ambitious, Western-leaning, and deeply suspicious of the Arab world. He and Israel had something important in common. They both feared Arab nationalism. They both feared Soviet influence, and they both needed powerful friends. So they made a deal, quietly, carefully, away from public view. Iran supplied up to 60% of Israel's oil through a secret pipeline. Israeli experts aided Iranian agriculture. Iranian students studied in Israeli universities. The two nations even built a shared oil pipeline, one of the most profitable infrastructure projects in the region, allowing Iranian oil to reach European markets through Israeli ports. Every Iranian general visited Israel. Israeli military leaders visited Tehran. Behind closed doors, their intelligence agencies worked hand in hand. Did you know that Iran became the second Muslim-majority country in the world to recognize Israel? Even before many Arab nations had fully accepted Israel's existence, this alliance had a name inside Israeli foreign policy circles. They called it the Periphery Doctrine. And for nearly 3 decades, it worked. But there was a problem building underneath. The Shah's rule was growing more repressive. His secret police, known as Savak, was feared across Iran. Ordinary Iranians were suffering, and many of them knew that Israel was close to the regime that was oppressing them. That left a deep mark. Then came 1979, and everything changed overnight. A revolution swept through Iran. The Shah fled. A religious leader named Ayatollah Khomeini, who had been in exile for years, returned to Tehran and took control of the country. His ideology was uncompromising. Israel was not just an opponent, it was an enemy to be destroyed. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was seized and handed directly to Yasser Arafat and the Palestine Liberation Organization. Israel was officially branded the Little Satan, second only to the United States, the Great Satan. 30 years of cooperation, erased in weeks. Did you know that Israeli diplomats in Tehran were still hoping until the very last moment that a military coup would save the Shah and preserve their alliance? They watched the revolution unfold with disbelief, and then evacuated quietly as the new order took hold. But here is where the story becomes even more complicated. Just 1 year after becoming bitter enemies, Israel and Iran were secretly doing business again. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, had invaded Iran. And Israel, watching one enemy fight another, quietly sold weapons and spare parts to Tehran. Israel's strategy was to keep both of its enemies occupied and prevent an Iraqi victory. Ideology was set aside for cold calculation. Even enemies can have common interests. That moment of hidden pragmatism did not last. As Iran built its influence across the region, through Hezbollah in Lebanon, through Hamas in Gaza, through proxy forces in Syria and Iraq, Israel saw an existential threat taking shape on multiple borders simultaneously. And then came the nuclear question. Iran began developing what it called a peaceful nuclear energy program. Israel called it something else entirely. A nuclear-armed Iran, Israeli leaders argued, would be the single greatest threat to their survival. The shadow war intensified. Cyber attacks, assassinations of nuclear scientists, explosions inside Iranian facilities. Neither side admitted to anything, but everyone understood what was happening. Did you know that the Stuxnet computer virus, widely believed to have been developed by Israel and the United States, physically destroyed Iranian nuclear centrifuges without firing a single bullet? It was the world's first known cyber weapon used against physical infrastructure. For years, this shadow war kept both sides from open conflict, proxy battles, covert operations, carefully managed escalation. Neither side wanted to cross the line into direct war. Then, that line was crossed. In 2024, Israel and Iran attacked each other openly and directly for the first time, following decades of proxy war. Missiles flew in both directions. The world watched with alarm. And in June 2025, Israel launched a full military operation targeting Iran's nuclear facilities and military infrastructure. The United States joined the conflict, striking Iran's most fortified nuclear sites. A ceasefire was announced 12 days later. The conflict did not end there. In early 2026, after massive protests inside Iran were met with a brutal government crackdown, the United States and Israel launched another major military operation, this time targeting sites across Iran. The region entered its most dangerous moment in decades. Two nations that once shared oil pipelines and military bases are now exchanging missiles and targeting each other's nuclear programs. A friendship built on quiet pragmatism, destroyed by ideology, power, and the relentless logic of rivalry. Did you know that when Israeli diplomats left Tehran in 1979, some of them believed the break would be temporary? That cooler heads would prevail and the alliance would quietly resume? They were wrong. What began as a strategic partnership between two nations trying to survive in a hostile region has become one of the defining conflicts of the 21st century. And the decisions made between Jerusalem and Tehran today, in boardrooms, in military bases, in nuclear facilities hidden beneath mountains, will shape the Middle East for generations. Two nations, once partners, now enemies. That is always the bigger picture.